You do what?
A book show.
Oh.
Talk to different people about fave books that you've read and how it's inspired you or what you learned from it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a book that that comes back to you every once in a while?
Yeah, well, I've read Perfume by Patrick Susskind about 10 times in my life, and I can't stop reading it. It's like something that's just stationary in my pocket all the time. It just doesn't leave me, and every time I'm bored, like I'm on an airplane or something, I read it over and over again. Because I'm a hypochondriac, and it just affects me. It makes me want to cut my nose off.
What's the book about?
It's about this perfume apprentice in France at the turn of the century, and he is just disgusted basically with all humans, and he just can't get away from humans, so he goes on this trek, this walk of death, where he goes into the rural areas where there's woods all over the place in the small villages, and he only travels by night, and he just, every time he smells human, like a fire from a far off way, he'll just get really disgusted and hide, and he just tries to stay away from people. I can relate to that. As a matter of fact, I use that very story in Scentless Apprentice. Yeah. So that's really one of the first times that I've ever used an actual story, as a book, as an example of a song. I've always tried to stay away from that, but now that I'm running out of ideas more and more, I tend to do that. I don't know. I've just noticed that people expect more of a thematic angle with our music. They always want to read into it. And before, I was just using pieces of poetry and just garbage, just stuff that just would spew out of me at the time. And a lot of times when I write lyrics, it's just at the last second because I'm really lazy. So, and then I find myself having to come up with explanations for it. So I thought I'd prevent that this time and actually have an explanation for some of the songs at least. I've been just fascinated with medical texts and charts, and I guess I secretly want to be a doctor or something. I don't know. Or a person that works in a cremation factory. I don't know. I've always liked anatomy. Ever since I was a little kid. When I first got that little model of the Invisible Man, or the Visible Man. It's just something I really like. And since I've become a big rock star and made a bunch of money, I found this place in the Mall of America in Minneapolis that sells nothing but medical stuff. It's a medical supply store that they've offered to the public. It's really great. I bought all these fetuses and anatomy men and charts and stuff, and it was like a dream come true. Because I've always been really poor, and if I could find something like that in a second-hand store, I'd barely have enough money to buy it. And a lot of times I couldn't buy that stuff, so I just went on this rampage of buying all this stuff. And I've used it. I think I've overused it, for like pictures for the album, and I don't know. I just went overboard on it. Haven't changed at all. I mean, believe it or not, we get along just as well as we ever did. We're just as the same passive-aggressive people as we used to be. We never fight. When we're pissed off at each other, we just hold it under our breath and have respect for one another in that way. It's easier to work that way, because we have a mission, I guess. No one set out to market this music as that. That's what happens when the media catches on. They have to call it something. I like it as much as New Wave. I would have been proud to be a New Waver. New Wave was just a progression from punk rock and a mutation of punk rock, and it was more commercial and more palatable, It had, punk rock roots, and it was easier to swallow for the media and middle America and the middle of the world, and it's just, that's what I kind of think about our music. New Wave as the days go by. I think we're going to reinvent New Wave and bring back breakdancing. I'd really like to bring back New Wave and breakdancing, meld it to something, I don't know. That's what our new music is sounding like. We're using a lot more effects boxes, and we haven't resorted to skinny ties, but I think our music's, this album's like the closing of the chapter of the formula we've been using. It's like grunge is it's really kind of boring for us. You know, it's something we can't deny, and we're not going to stop playing the old songs live. Whoops. And but you know, our tastes are just changing so rapidly that we're really experimenting with a lot of stuff, and it might get too indulgent and be really embarrassing for the next album, but we can't put out another album, and this is just like the last chapter of 3-chord grunge music for us. And it was an easy thing to do and a safe thing to do because we knew it's still popular, you know, but we had to get it out of our systems. Really. Yeah, I'm kind of a moody person, and a lot of times when someone has had the chance to talk to me, I've probably been on tour, or I've probably gone through an exhausted time where I've talked about myself for hours and hours, and this week I haven't had to talk about myself very much. By writing songs as blunt as Rape Me, having to resort to doing something like that is almost embarrassing because people didn't understand when we wrote a song like About a Girl or Polly, and having to explain that and having misunderstandings about it, I decided to write Rape Me in a way that was just so blunt and obvious that it's like no one could deny it, you know, no one could read into it any other way, you know, although some people have actually, because some of the lyrics in it, some people have thought that maybe it has something to do with my disgust with the media and the way they've treated us and stuff like that, but it's not true. That's not what the song's about at all. It's just my way of, in a sarcastic way almost, of like just saying how obvious do we have to be, you know. And I guess we don't talk about those kind of things that, you know, that are really important to us because I don't want to be thought of as like nothing more than a PC band, you know. I mean, we're entertainers. You know, that's what music is, and so it's really hard to, you know, step over the line. It doesn't seem like much, but, you know, we raised like $50,000 for the Bosnian rape victims, you know, and that's a lot more than we could have done griping about it and talking about it in interviews and like maybe putting out a fanzine, you know. There's nothing wrong with doing stuff like that, but, you know, we're using the tools that we have, you know, and we're being effective as much as we can. But we still don't want to be too political at the same time, you know, because it's just kind of embarrassing to do that. Or, you know, you get a lot of ridicule for it. It's just, you know, it started with something and then, you know, people just pick up on it and carry it along, and we turn into cartoon characters, and there's nothing I can do about it, really, you know. I can threaten to sue and, you know, try to you know, bring up libel laws and stuff like that to people that write shit like that about us, but, you know, if you've ever looked into that, it's pretty much a lost cause. You have to have a lot of money to do that. And, you know, I could spend the money that I earned last year all on fighting the Vanity Fair piece, you know, and they'd end up winning because they have more money, you know. A lot of stations in the States got a hold of our new album, but it was like someone had anonymously sent them like 5th generation cassette copies of our new album, and in order for them to play it, they started on the weekend at 5 o'clock, like on Friday nights. That way they could play it throughout the rest of the weekend without having a council, you know, sue them. And that's kind of smart, you know. True, but the thing is that there's been so much controversy about how bad the record sounds, you know, and how lo-fi it is. And to hear it like that compared to all the other songs that were on the radio that night, it really disgusted me, and it pissed me off because it sounded terrible. It sounded really, really bad. And then everyone that heard it that weekend is going to say, yeah, you're right. Okay, the stories are true. The Nirvana album really sucks, and I'm not going to buy it, you know. So it just kind of bothered me, but we took care of it. You know, much after the fact, after we'd already been damaged to a point where it, you know, almost didn't do any good, you know. But I don't know, it was just a weird realization one day, you know. Wow, I have to, you know, and I can see how like rock and roll stars will all of a sudden, will almost compromise their music to make sure that they sell the same amount of records next year because they've spent all their money on lawyers and protecting themselves last year, you know. But I mean, we obviously haven't done that. I mean, I don't know, maybe you might not have noticed, but the record isn't as commercial as the last one, so we could never bring ourselves to do that, you know. I'd rather just laugh about it, and we'll put out Metal Machine music next year, you know. I don't know. Either I've accepted it or I've gone beyond insane to where I can deal with it emotionally. I really don't care. I know that I'm too stubborn to allow myself to ever compromise their music or, you know, get so wrapped up in it and involved to where it's going to, you know, turn us into big rock stars. I mean, I just don't feel like that. Everyone else accuses us of it, but we've always had a good sense of humor. I don't think that's been translated very well, you know, but we'd rather laugh about it. Ha ha ha. I really can't describe what changed our attitude so fast. I think, you know, I really was a lot more negative and angry and everything else a few years ago, but that had a lot to do with not having a mate, you know, not having a steady girlfriend and stuff like that. So you know, that was one of the main things that was bothering me, that I wouldn't admit at the time, you know. So now that I've found that, the world seems a lot better for some reason, you know. It really does change your attitude about things, you know. I mean, 4 years ago I would have said, you know, the classic thing like, you know, how dare someone bring a child into this life, you know. It's completely a terrible way to go, and, you know, the world's going to explode any day and stuff like that. But once you fall in love, it's a bit different. And Iggy Pop is pretty much the only person that I've met that I really, really admire and like. I didn't ask him for an autograph. I tried not to bother him the way that I thought that I might be bothered. But I don't know. And then the other person is William Burroughs. I met him, and I actually got to put out a record with him. So it's already out. It's just a 10-inch. It's just one story of his called The Priest They Called Him. And it was a long-distance recording. He had recorded his version, and then I just played a bunch of guitar noises in the background, and they mixed it somewhere else, and it came out. And now we're talking about putting out a whole album. Well, you know, a couple of years ago when we were making these bold negative statements about things like that, you know, we were really confused, and we were scared. We were afraid that we would lose a lot of our audience that meant a lot to us, because they're people that, you know, we hopefully feel that we have a connection with, you know, the college students and people in the underground. And I don't think we've lost them. I think they're still fans, so I'm not worried about it anymore. And I was at the time.